Welcome to True Crime Garage. Wherever you are, whatever you are doing, thanks for listening. I'm your host, Nick, and with me, as always, is a man who drinks apple juice because OJ will kill you. He is the captain.
It also unclogs your pipes. It's good to be seen, and it's good to see you. Thanks for listening. Thanks for telling a friend.
This week in the fridge, we have an interesting one. This is called Shadows of Their Eyes. This is a dark sour beer aged in oak barrels. This gem is by the Rare Barrel Microbrewery. And for those of you scoring at home, this is batch number 18, garage grade, 4 out of 5 bottle caps. And today we are giving thanks to these gems right here. First up, a big barrel cheers to Sarah in Vadnais Heights, Minnesota.
And a big shout out to Stephanie in Berlin, Germany.
Next up, we have Marty in Pflugerville, Texas.
Old Pflugerville, Snoogerville. And a big shout out to Hope in West Dundee, Illinois.
And we have Rachel in Knoxville, Tennessee. And last but certainly not least, we have Big Nick in Virginia Beach, Virginia. Big Nick says it's good to hear you and it's good to be heard. So little tip of the cap to the captain there. Word to the wise, though. I'm known as Big Nick in the garage here, so we'll limit it to just one, right? All right.
If you'd like to donate to the Beer Fund, we want to thank everybody for donating to the Beer Fund. We are currently behind, but if you'd like to donate, go to truecrimegarage.com and click on the donate banner.
We are behind. It would be weird if we were ahead. Then we're just making names up. So thanks to everybody for contributing to this week's Beer Fund. You can do that at truecrimegarage.com. While you're there, check out the store page, sign up on the mailing list. That is enough of the business.
Wait, hold on. While you're there, get a good look at the Big Nick.
The extra crispy kernel. All right, that's enough of the business. Everybody gather around, grab a chair, grab a beer. Let's talk some true crime.
About 3 weeks before Ebby disappeared, her behavior changed drastically. She would tell us she was going someplace or with someone, and we would find out that's not where she was. Ebby was provoking arguments and wanted to move out. She left and eventually ended up with my son, Trevor. A couple days before Ebby was reported missing, she went to a party.
Ebby texted me on Saturday, October 24th, that she needed to speak to me about something important. She indicated that an individual at this house had sexually assaulted her and videotaped it.
There were 4 boys at the party. She told me she was assaulted by one. Ebby was hysterical and wanted my husband to go to the police station with her.
I told Ebby that I would meet her after dinner to sit tight, and I'd let her know when I was on my way. The last question I asked her was if she wanted to go file her police report, and she stated, yes, I'm certain. The next afternoon, my stepson Trevor came by. He contacted Ebby about an hour later, and she told him that she was outside his house.
So Trevor went out, didn't see her, asked her where she was. She didn't know where she was, but she knew she was with her car. At that point, Trevor told me what had happened, told me that Ebby sounded really messed up, disoriented. He'd never heard her sound like that before.
To my knowledge, Trevor is the last person in our family to speak to Ebby. I would like the 4 individuals that were at that party that evening with my daughter to come forward and give a formal interview with the Little Rock Police Department to either help them move forward in the investigation, clear their name, or help determine what happened to Ebby.
Some cases we approach the story by starting off with the main event, which may be a murder, an abduction, or a disappearance. But in this case, the events unfold in such a peculiar way, we will just roll with the chronological approach. Much of the biographical information we are about to relay comes from a series of articles in AY magazine dedicated to this strange case. Now, the trailer you just heard was taken from the Dr. Phil show, who has done some extensive coverage on this case. Ebby Jane Steppach was born March 31st, 1997, to Lori and Peter Steppach. Ebby's name, which Lori laughingly says she borrowed from a church friend whose daughter's name was Evie. Her unusual name signified how special and unique her mother felt her child was. Ebby's middle name is Jane, which is also her mother's middle name as well. Lori hoped her little girl would embody a combination of her mother's traditional religious values and a free-spirited, one-of-a-kind persona. Ebby's family consisted of an older half-brother actually, named Trevor, and a younger sister named Harris. Lori says she and Ebby's father split when Ebby was just a first grader. Lori says that the marriage was a, quote, bad situation, but when it ended, it was still abrupt and shocking to her and her daughters. Lori went on to marry Michael Jernigan, who helped bring some stability to this broken family. Teenaged Ebby was known as Ebster to her family. She loved Hot Pockets, her dog Furball, music, the beach, and the color purple. When she graduated from high school, Ebby wanted to go to cosmetology school and later get her real estate license. She was also interested in languages. She studied Spanish, Turkish, and Hebrew. Lori says Ebby was always stubborn and independent. When she was young, she did not like her name, and she went through phases where she would insist on being called something else. Lori says Ebby was a homey person. She liked to stay home. She had friends over to her house more than she would go to their homes. As she got older, she developed into a fiercely loyal person. While she was hard to get to know, her friends say that once you broke down her walls, she was selfless and generous and passionately stuck by her friends' sides.
And Ebby's friend Danielle Westbrook describes her as kind, loyal, loving, courageous, strong, and perseverant.
One story that captures this is when her classmate, this was a boy named Caleb Boyd, he was apparently wrongfully incarcerated for having a gun on school grounds. The way that this story works is instead of turning her back on him like so many of his other friends did,
right,
Ebby took the lead in mobilizing students in support of Caleb. She initiated a letter-writing campaign and petitioned the court, and it worked, getting Caleb released. Although these characteristics of Ebby's were largely positives, her mom says there were some downsides to her loyal and trusting nature. Ebby got hurt a lot because her strong feelings weren't always returned. In her early high school years, she was bullied, and she changed schools, switching to the Little Scholars of Arkansas Academy from another small private school. Later, Ebby's loyalty and stubbornness reared its head when her mom tried to get her to see that a few of her boyfriends and other friends were less than she deserved. As high school progressed, her independence morphed into full-blown rebelliousness. Ebby started breaking her parents' rules and hanging out with a new crowd, a group that she met at her job at Foot Locker at the McCain Mall. She had worked hard to land this job. This was the summer before her senior year. Ebby spent most of her money on makeup and clothes, and she started to work more and more to be around these other kids her parents didn't know. Things were exacerbated by the car that Ebby got from her father, Peter. Lori said it gave her daughter the feeling that she could go wherever she wanted to, whenever she wanted to.
Right, that's a typical feeling for teens.
Hey, I got a car. I'm out of here, man.
Mm-hmm.
Ebby, who was a very pretty girl, 5'2", 110 pounds with blonde hair and hazel eyes, she is acting out in ways her parents did not like. And we all know we don't mean to give Ebby a bad name. This is a phase most kids go through. A lot of kids go through. They want to not be around their parents, not listen to their parents, and they're hanging out with these other people that her parents are calling kids. But let's keep in mind, these are people that she's working with. So as we go through this, we are uncertain, and the captain and I talked about this last week, we are uncertain if these are in fact actually kids,
right?
Because it's a job. So at the youngest, we're probably looking at 17 or 18, but very likely 19, 20, maybe even 21-year-old young adults. Now, Ebby, as we said, she's acting out. She's lying to her parents, not going where she says she's going, hanging out with people that she says she will not hang out with. She and her mom and stepdad continued to butt heads, and things escalated. Ebby would periodically storm out to stay at her friend's home, at Danielle's home, but would always return home the next day. Now, when Ebby started her senior year in the fall of 2015, she made a decision that her mother would not support. She switched schools. This was from the Lisa Academy to Little Rock Central High, which is a very big school. She went from a small school to a very large school. This was a major change for Ebby, who had been in a sheltered private school her whole life. Sure enough, new kids she was hanging out with introduced her to marijuana. Her parents did not approve, and in a heated argument in September, Ebby and her mom agreed that she should move out. Lori was determined to stand firm. Her house, her rules, and if Ebby moved out, she couldn't come back. Lori agreed to pay for certain things, but Ebby would largely be on her own, and she would have to work. Quite a bit of this situation reminds us of Brianna Maitland.
The case we covered, episode 254 and 255.
Brianna switched schools as well. And remember, she started hanging out with the wrong crowd.
Right.
Eventually moving out of her parents' house.
And working a lot.
Vanishing in 2004 and unfortunately not seen since. Ebby didn't have much of a plan. In fact, she rotated between houses quite a bit. She crashed at her older brother Trevor's home. She stayed with her biological father, Peter, and with a friend, Kaylee Foley. So she's bouncing around from all of these three homes for a time. And Lori and Michael began receiving calls from Central High. Ebby was missing school. They decided not to confront her about this. She is still in school, but technically she is an adult at this time.
Right.
Sometime around mid-October, Ebby showed up at Danielle's place, asking to stay there for a while. The two shared Danielle's room, listening to music, and they went out on long drives. But since they went to different schools, Danielle was never really sure what Ebby was doing if she was not at the home.
Yeah, it seems like she had to do a lot of work to figure out where she was going to stay. So it'd be a lot more work on top of that to figure out how you're going to get from this random spot that you're staying at to school.
On the morning of Wednesday, October 21st, Ebby was supposed to drive Danielle to school on her way to school after Danielle's doctor's appointment. Danielle texted Ebby that her appointment was running late, telling Ebby to go on without her. Ebby texts back, saying, "No, it's not a big deal at all, I swear. I didn't want to go to school today anyway because of all that drama." Danielle does not know what drama Ebby was referring to. Ebby never ended up going to school that day. It's unclear how many days she missed, but she and Danielle went to services at the Assembly of God Church in Little Rock that evening. Thursday and Friday, I don't know if Ebby went to school. I could not find anything that stated that she did, so we can only guess that what the drama was and if she was still avoiding school because of it. But on Friday night, October 23rd, we do know that Ebby went to a party. Danielle did not go with her because she did not know the other people attending this party.
Right.
We don't know if these were kids from Central High School or people that Ebby was working with at Foot Locker or others, but it was some group that she was hanging out with at this time. This will be easy to understand why we don't know who this is in just a quick bit. On Saturday, October 24th, Ebby told Danielle that her brother Trevor was worried because she hadn't been to his place all week long, so she needed to go over there and see him. The friends agreed to see each other on Sunday at the church ice cream social. So Ebby went to her brother Trevor's place, and then she went to her grandparents' house. This is Peggy and Bill Holman. Ebby was close with them and loved staying at their house. Ebby spent the day sleeping and watching her favorite show, SpongeBob. She had dinner with her grandparents, and they went out for TCBY around 7 p.m.
And around 8 p.m., she's going to be leaving her grandparents, telling them that she's going to go hang out with her stepfather.
She tells her grandparents that she does plan to return to their home for that night and asking them not to lock the doors. The Holmans never saw her again, and when they tried calling her later that evening before going to bed, there was no answer. It turns out that same night, around 7:50 p.m., Ebby had begun texting her stepfather that she wanted him to bring her to the police station so she could report an incident that happened at the party the night before. She told him that she was the victim of a sexual assault, and 4 males were involved. One guy had sexually assaulted her, and he also videotaped the whole event. It's unclear what the role of the other 3 boys was, but it was implied that they were also complicit somehow. Ebby's story is backed up by some text that she sent on the morning of Saturday, October 24th. This is to a friend named Gage Fulton. Here's the conversation that Gage later had with Monty Vickers, a private investigator on the case, describing the text between him and Ebby. He says, Ebby says, I was hanging out with some dudes last night and we smoked and I had sex with one of them and he effing recorded me.
Mm-hmm.
She says this was when she wasn't looking. Vickers asked Gage, did she tell you that she was raped? To which Gage replies, says, she said she felt forced into it. Her last text message to me is saying, I am going to kill myself.
Well, it seems like they were drinking at this party. Possibly these guys are older. We don't know. I think we both kind of assume that these are probably more likely people from Foot Locker than her high school.
Yeah, or friends of Foot Locker friends.
Yeah, so it seems to me that maybe she felt pressured or whatever. But anyway, she ends up having sex with this individual. Then he tapes it or films it without her knowledge.
Right.
And he's probably sharing this with the other guys at the party. And that's probably why she is saying that they're involved in some way.
Yeah, and we say the word sex, but we're using that very vaguely.
Well, those are also her words.
Yeah, but we have her telling Gage that she said she felt forced into it.
Right.
So now we do know that Ebby did not kill herself. Instead, she began texting her stepfather while he was eating dinner that night. Ebby requested that Michael not tell her mother. She had already called the police, but didn't feel that she had received any good advice on what to do.
Right.
So Ebby felt it would be better if she went to the police station in person, and she wanted her stepfather to go with her. The two agreed to meet around 8 p.m. at the Holmans and head down to the station together. But we do know that Ebby left the Holmans' house before Michael arrived, and the grandparents told Michael that they were under the impression that she had gone to meet him. She was never seen again. Now, Michael fears that she may have decided to try to confront one of the boys or all of the boys at the party about this incident by herself.
Right.
And he says probably to try to get a hold of the video. According to Lori, Ebby's cell phone records indicate that Ebby made 2 calls to the Little Rock Police Department that night around 7:30 p.m., and each only lasted about a minute. But the Little Rock Police Department has said they have no record of those calls.
Okay.
Right.
Right. So
but Ebby's mom does, so we know that they happened, right? Ebby's phone records also show that she continued to open and read text messages until the night of Sunday, October 25th. Unfortunately...
Wait. Say that again.
Well, the phone records show that, and I have here in my notes that she, indicating Ebby, but I think what we should be clear on is we don't know who was opening and reading text messages, but somebody was until Sunday of October 25th.
Right.
It's clear to me that we have Lori, her mother, believes it to be Ebby, but as we just stated, we don't know for sure.
No, I think what happened is she goes missing, and somebody is going through her phone to try to clear some evidence. I think that's what it is.
Well, and nobody knows where she spent that Saturday night.
Right.
I mean, she could already be in danger, as you just said. Now, the family started to be worried when no one heard from her by the next morning.
Right.
We got to keep some things in mind here. There's a lot going on, and there's a lot going on in this phase of Ebby's life. As we already stated, she's not always honest about where she is, who she's hanging out with, and there were times even before moving out that she would leave in an argument and go stay somewhere and then come back the next morning.
Well, and the difficult thing is that she is 18, so technically she doesn't have to be honest about where she's going.
Yeah, so you have like really mixed emotions and thoughts and feelings by her family right now, where she didn't show up to meet her stepdad. She tells her grandparents that she left to see the stepdad. He shows up at their door, and they're like, what are you doing here?
Right.
But at the same time, you got these concerns, but you also have a history of somebody running out for the night,
right,
and not being where they're supposed to be. They say that they tried calling and texting Ebby, and all of those texts were, it's according to her phone records, state that they were read by somebody.
Mm-hmm.
They weren't responded to. Finally, around 5:30 p.m. on Sunday the 25th, Ebby's brother, Trevor, got a phone call from her. She did not sound like herself. He said she sounded panicked and disoriented. Ebby told him that she was in her car parked outside of his house. So he hangs up the phone. He goes outside to meet her, but she is not there. There's no sign of her or her car.
Mm-hmm.
He calls her back and asks, where are you? She said she was in her car, but did not know where she was. And she could not tell him who she was with. The last thing she said was, I'm fucked up. After 4 minutes of back and forth, with Ebby not making any sense at all and not giving him any information, she hung up the phone, and no one has ever heard from her again. Her phone started going to voicemail. On Sunday night, when Ebby hadn't turned up at her grandparents' home, and after that worrisome phone conversation with Trevor, her family started actively looking for her, searching the neighborhood and calling around to her friends. Ebby's sister texted Danielle asking if Ebby was at her place. Danielle, who was at the ice cream social, said she had planned to attend with Ebby.
Right, but obviously Ebby's not there.
Correct. And now Danielle is joining in the hunt as well. She starts calling and texting Ebby's phone. She starts calling other friends to see if anyone knew where she could be. When she got no response from Ebby, Danielle started driving around, looking for Ebby in places she knew her friend would frequent.
Mm-hmm.
But all of this effort, nobody would find anything.
All right, we're back. Cheers, mates.
We are back. After that strange phone call, Ebby's brother called the police to report her missing. But he received the typical runaround that we've seen in so many other cases. It almost seems just in a terrible way. It almost seems funny to even say it because we've repeated it so many times
right
throughout these different cases. Now, this one is a little different. This response is a little different than we've heard in the past, and maybe it's some form of progress. I don't know, Captain. You be the decider there, but he's told that they need to wait 12 hours before filing a report.
Nope. There's nothing.
It's a little bit of a shorter time period. Most of the time we hear
less of a piece
24.
of shit. Yeah.
We've heard 36 hours. Here they want 12. So Lori, her mother, says the second that the clock hit the 12-hour mark, she called the police. She called back to the Little Rock Police Department.
Right.
A police officer came to the house on Monday to speak with the family and fill out a missing persons report. But the Little Rock Police Department did not seem too interested in the missing persons case. They seemed to give Lori's concern about her daughter very little weight and took a perfunctory report without much follow-up at all.
Yeah, now, in the cops' defense, I really want to know how many times do they get calls where they're getting call backs within minutes. Hey, we can't find my son, can't find my daughter. And then 5 minutes later, they're going, oh, sorry, we found him.
Well, we do know that that is the case most of the time.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing, too, look, we'll go down this road because you started us down the road. In this particular situation, I can kind of see it from that perspective of, oh, we just have some people that are overreacting and they want to file a report, but yet the person that they're trying to report missing, they've already told me she's hanging out with the wrong crowd. She leaves and doesn't come home some nights.
She's an adult.
She's an adult. She's living elsewhere, and we don't really know where she's living. So
Go
ahead.
Yeah. The thing that always drives me nuts, though, is when they go, well, they're an adult and they have the right to go missing. And I would just say that look, I understand people have the right to go missing, but the person that is, the person that has the right to go missing that normally goes missing, there probably is some conflict with the family, so the family is not going to be calling for a while.
Right.
You know what I mean? But when a family is calling going, hey, we can't find our son or daughter, and the cops go, well, they're adult, they have the right. Yeah, we know that they have the right, but this is out of character. And I think the cops need to take that more serious.
It's out of character, and then here's the other thing, too, that yes, and I'm going to be my own devil's advocate here, where I say that I understand this from the cops' perspective, where they're saying, here's this 18-year-old who doesn't come home some nights, lives elsewhere, couch surfing, basically.
Right.
But then here's the other thing you got to consider. That's all been going on for a while, and they've never called the police before.
Right.
So very likely this is very different than any of those other times, and maybe they are not overreacting at all. Maybe they are reacting appropriately, and we need to step in and get involved in this thing.
Well, again, this is also in a day and age where we're very connected.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're not getting a hold of somebody, it becomes spooky pretty quickly.
Now, to put it in its shortest form possible, the Jernigans did not feel that the police were treating their missing daughter's case with an appropriate sense of urgency. On October 30th, the Little Rock Police Department, this is Lieutenant Steve McCallahan, he's the media spokesperson for the police department. He told the media that there was no immediate danger in Ebby's case, and she was likely missing because she wanted to be. Then, Little Rock's Channel 7 News reported that police found surveillance footage showing Ebby's car traveling on Cantrell Road in West Little Rock, sometime shortly after she went missing. While this report aired at the end of the week when Ebby disappeared, there was no indication of when the footage of the car had been taken.
Right.
So it's on TV, but we don't know exactly when that footage was taken. It turned out it was most likely sometime that weekend, the crucial time period in which Ebby did vanish. Shalamont Park is a neighborhood park. There's a pool there and a playground. It's maintained and operated by the large Chanel Valley Homeowners Association. A sign at the entrance of the park reads "Private for residents only." It is in a very upscale area of West Little Rock near Joe Robinson High School, another large high school in the city, on Route 10. In order to get to the private neighborhood park, drivers have to take one of two access roads. One of these is Chalamont Drive, which becomes Northfield Drive and takes drivers out to Chanel Parkway by the Walmart Supercenter. The other way takes drivers on Chalamont Drive to Cantrell Road, which is Route 10. A security guard named Guy Hooper, who was employed by the neighborhood association to patrol the park, he called the Little Rock Police Department on the night of October 28th. He was calling to report an abandoned vehicle parked in the parking lot of the park. Police took a report, but didn't make it over to the park until October 30th, 2 days later.
Wow.
So I want you to keep in mind how this whole thing went down. This man, Guy Hooper, he's a security officer. He calls in this abandoned vehicle, and then he waits for police for a couple of hours. And they don't show up. They don't respond the entire time, to which he's like, all right, I'll be back again tomorrow to patrol again.
Right.
I believe he actually called the following day as well, and then again waited another hour or two. But as said, it was 2 days later before anyone showed up to take a look at this vehicle.
Well, and just to go back to the whole, we don't believe that she's in danger. We think that she went missing on her own. Like, we have a couple points of evidence to make them believe not that. One, she's basically saying that there was this sexual assault that happened to me, and I want to report it. I called your police station multiple times. I'm making arrangements to go down there, so we should take that serious. And then the remarks that she made to her friend saying, well, I'll kill myself. Now, maybe that is just, it was just a figure of speech, and it wasn't something that she was actually going to do. But just that in itself means that she's possibly in danger of harming herself.
Mm-hmm.
And so we should take this more serious. It seems just like a load of horseshit.
Well, once they finally went down there to investigate this abandoned vehicle, what they found was Ebby's silver 2003 Volkswagen Passat, Arkansas plate 137 UFM, parked in the parking lot. And it had been there since the night of October 25th. This is according to the security officer.
Okay, so the 25th, that's the Sunday?
That's the same night that she spoke with Trevor on the phone. Yes, that Sunday.
Okay.
The car keys were still in the ignition. The vehicle was out of gas and the battery was dead. Even more disturbing were the contents of the vehicle, which included her contact lenses, her wallet, and her cell phone, all of which were sitting on the front seat. Now, really, truly what they find there, keep in mind, she's moving around from house to house at that time, staying a little bit with her brother, a little bit with her biological father, and then a friend or two. They're going to find not only just these items, but they're going to find basically all of her possessions that travel along with her from house to house in this car.
Yeah, her car becomes basically her storage unit.
Yeah. Now, these items are of importance because Lori later said that Ebby couldn't see without her contacts, and she would never, ever not take her phone somewhere with her. Lori says this was Ebby's lifeline to her family. And now keep in mind, she's not living with she's not living with her family, but she's still close with them.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that all of Ebby's makeup was still sitting in the vehicle as well, that Lori says was the clincher for her. She immediately knew that something was wrong. Something bad had happened. Now, let's take our own little investigation into this vehicle too, Captain. What did we say here? We got the car keys still in the ignition.
Bad sign.
We got the automobile out of gas, and the battery was dead. That, to me, suggests that somebody left the vehicle running in that parking spot. And we do know that it was there since that, what did we say, Sunday the 25th?
Mm-hmm.
And they're not there looking at it until October 30th. That's it. I get abandoned vehicles. I don't get having these types of possessions being found inside the vehicle in plain sight. 1, 2, vehicle out of gas and the battery's dead, keys in it. Somebody left that vehicle running. This is very strange stuff.
Yeah.
Now, upon finding the car, Little Rock police called Ebby's father, Peter. This is her biological father. His name is on the car registration. It was he who notified his ex-wife, Lori, that Ebby's car had turned up.
Mm-hmm.
Police apparently failed to notice that the name of a missing young woman was also on that registration, and her license was in the vehicle. While they were searching the car, they left the trunk open.
Oh, it makes you wonder, did they fail to notice this, or are they choosing, because they're choosing not to look for somebody that we know that possibly is in danger, or we know they're choosing not to show up and take this report. We know they're choosing not to go investigate this car for 2 days. It's ridiculous.
Well, and keep in mind a couple things. If the security officer had called multiple times to report an abandoned vehicle, the responding officer does not know. I mean, they may know that somebody is missing or has been,
right.
but very likely not, because like we said, the missing persons report is filed. It's probably handed off to a detective by then, and if they are not showing an actual concern for this missing individual, the responding officer to this abandoned vehicle can't put 2 and 2 together,
right?
Because he doesn't have enough information to do so.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not until he calls the father that's on the registration. Father calls mom, hey, they found her vehicle. It's going to take Ebby's family to bring it back around to police and say, look, our daughter is missing and now you've found her vehicle.
Yeah, with all her stuff in it.
Right.
I mean, look, we all know that teenagers are connected to their phones. That to me is a huge red flag. And again, like you said, the battery being dead, no gas, and the keys in the ignition.
Mm-hmm. While they were searching the car, the officers left the trunk open and a rainstorm soaked many of Ebby's belongings. Channel 7 News reported that there appeared to be no sign of a struggle inside or outside of the vehicle, and it was found abandoned. Since Ebby's disappearance, her mother has worked nonstop to keep her daughter's case in the public eye and in the active case files on detectives' desk. But it hasn't been easy. In fact, at times it has been almost impossible. This is because the people who were supposed to help her and help her family, who made a pledge to protect and serve, they failed on this investigation for months. The Jernigan family says that Ebby's car was the subject of phone calls to the Little Rock Police Department, not only from Guy Hooper, but several neighbors in the area who called about the car that week, well before police officers finally acted on the tip. If the department had not ignored these calls, the trail would have been a lot fresher. And even after they finally pieced together that the car and the missing young woman were connected, the police department dropped the ball. The family got the runaround as to who was in charge of this investigation. Police never contacted people that were suspected of being at the party. Danielle or any of Ebby's other friends were not contacted. The security guard who found the vehicle was not contacted.
Yeah.
It took them weeks to getting around to pinging Ebby's phone to see where it had been. And when they did, they initially pinged the wrong phone number. So,
oh, God.
Yeah, let me take you through this horror story.
Well, I mean, let's just reiterate the fact that they left the trunk open.
Right.
What are you, a moron? I mean, come on. It's like, and what's the number one thing that we've seen time and time again? One of the worst things for evidence is water.
Yeah.
And you just leave the trunk open.
Right.
This is a crime scene, or possibly a crime scene.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't know either way, so you should protect it. But you're too lazy or stupid.
Or both.
Or both. I guess there's another option.
Nobody's ever wearing a shirt that says "I'm lazy and stupid."
We're gonna make
a shirt like that.
Stupid.
For those of you who are proud of yourself. So
leave that trunk open.
Here's the
I'm
thing.
gonna put my bike in it.
Hey, let me take you through this horror story. This is about the pinging her phone, but it ends up being the wrong phone number. All right. So they ping her phone, what is believed to be Ebby's phone.
Yeah.
And police tell her mother and stepfather, we've pinged the phone. It's coming from a location out about 45-minute drive from your home. Mm-hmm. So kind of out away from the city. And it's coming from a field out there. Listen to this. I mean, this is not sounding good, right? Your daughter's missing. The phone is pinging from a field kind of out in the middle of the country.
You start thinking that's possibly where her body is.
That's where we're going to find her.
Mm-hmm. But then you're going, well, how did her phone get back to the car?
Right. And I guess I'm a little unclear on that, Captain. What they're saying is that when they trace these pings, around the time that she went missing, they had the phone pinging out in this other location.
Now,
as you said, though, that's when the parents are like, oh, my God, we might find her body out in that field.
Right, and this is awful. Look, if I'm the investigator, even if I ping the wrong phone, right?
Mm-hmm.
Even if I'm a freaking moron, Captain Moron Pants, right? And I'm pinging the wrong phone, and then I know that the phone ended up at the car. Before I tell anybody, I am going and searching that field myself.
Or double checking the ping information.
Right, but I'm starting with I'm a dumbass, right? I pinged the wrong phone, but either way, I made a mistake, right? But I'm going to be a good detective, good investigator, and before I tell the parents and freak out,
mm-hmm.
I am going to go check that field, and then I'm going to present the information. But maybe by checking the field and finding nothing,
mm-hmm.
I would then double check, did I get the number right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're looking for ping information that would have taken place around the time that she was trying to call her brother, that she spoke to Trevor. Right? So, unfortunately, law enforcement figures out that they were pinging the wrong number.
I bet they didn't even figure that out. I bet somebody in her family figured that out.
Well, I believe it was a couple of days before they told the family, oh, we were pinging the wrong number. When they finally pinged the correct number, it did turn out that Ebby the phone was in Shalamont Park when she did, in fact, call Trevor.
Right.
Now, the Little Rock Police Department also claimed to be unable to access Ebby's social media. This is a part of the story that I really, we're talking about things that law enforcement screwed up on, that they messed up on, that they dropped the ball.
Right.
This one is just a small part of the story, but truly I feel like this is where they missed the bus the most. Because we have rumor of this video that might have been on somebody's phone. We have talks and Gage coming forward saying that I trade text messages with her. We know that she or somebody was opening and reading text messages on her phone on that Sunday.
Right.
So I really feel like, and especially given her age, that this social media stuff could have really helped the investigation, especially in the early stages of the investigation. What's going on here is they're telling the family, we don't know how to access these social media accounts. We do not know how to get in there, do a little spy work and figure out what was going on, who she was talking to.
Because we're too stupid.
Well, and then on top of that, what would be really key here is to figure out where, in fact, she was going when she says that she was going to meet her stepfather, because we know from the stepfather, that's not the case. He says, I was going to meet her here, and now she's gone.
Right.
So that could have really helped the early stages of the investigation.
Why is she at the park?
Well, at the very least, let's say she communicated with 4 or 5 other people after she left her grandparents' house. You need that trail of breadcrumbs.
Right.
You need to follow the breadcrumbs to get you from person A to person B to C and D until you get to the actual last person that spoke with her or had interaction with her, so you can figure out her location.
Yeah, but I could just see the detectives the whole time on this case. All right, well, we checked her phone. This is the detectives talking to the family. We checked her phone. What's her name again? You know, I mean, that's kind of the work they're doing.
Yeah.
We saw her car. What's her name again?
Mm-hmm.
You know, have you heard from her? Like, no, do some work here.
Now, Lori did try to assist the investigators as much as she possibly could regarding her missing daughter's case. She was the one that spent the man hours putting together Ebby's phone records. She got as much as she could from her social media accounts, and she passed all of this on to the detectives. And unfortunately, she says at one point in this investigation, when she is in there answering questions and talking with detectives, she's saying the detectives seemed proud to tell her, we've collected all this information. We have tons of evidence. We have all this information regarding your missing daughter. And he had it in the room with them.
Right.
And Lori says she looked at all of this information that he says he has and that has collected. And she says, unfortunately, this was everything this guy had, she provided to him. She provided this information. So why he seemed proud to have that information makes absolutely no sense at all.
Stupid or lazy.
What's going on behind the scenes is the trouble of having Ebby and the family come forward stating 2 things. One, Ebby's intention was to meet her stepfather at some point that evening. Her family saying the stepfather was going to meet Ebby some point that evening.
Yeah.
Those things are now working against Ebby's family in this investigation, because now the way that they're working this investigation, they're suspicious of the stepfather.
Of course.
They want to know if in fact he was the last person to see her and what was really going on behind the scenes. They're basically believing that he is the murderer. Now, mind you, they wouldn't state in the beginning that this was a real missing persons case to begin with. Now, all of a sudden, they're saying, oh, we think that she disappeared because you made her disappear.
Right.
And this, whatever this theory is or how they ever came up with this theory, other than knowing that he might have been the last person that she intended to meet with, they're now using this as a theory, and what they're claiming when they speak with the family is, you're lying to us. You are telling us a different story because you're trying to cover up what truly happened to your daughter. When in reality, what we have is a family who's trying to be actively involved in an investigation that would not be moving forward without them.
Yeah, it's very difficult because we were talking about this before, I think on Off the Record, where I do not like the idea when detectives say, it's not my job to come up with theories. Mm-hmm. It's my job to collect the evidence and for the evidence to tell me what's happening. Now hold on a second. I understand you're saying that because you want to seem like you're smart and level-headed. But the truth of the matter is that you have to collect evidence, and along the way, you have to create different theories, multiple theories.
Based off of the evidence you're seeing, yeah.
Based off the evidence, but also maybe based off evidence you don't have yet. And you have to come up with multiple theories, and then you have to go down those rabbit holes and let the evidence tell you if that theory is true or not. In this case, they come up with this theory that makes zero sense, because what we have evidence of is this young woman making calls to the police saying that she was sexually assaulted. Again, I'm sick and tired of, look, the justice system doesn't take these claims serious enough. That's why she called the police department multiple times. They should be saying, you were sexually assaulted. Come down to the station now. We need to take this serious. And then she's making claims to her friends, and now she's telling her stepfather.
Mm-hmm.
Now, again, we should take these claims serious because not only is she stepping up to the plate, which is so hard for these women to do, but she's stepping up to the plate to talk to the police officers and law enforcement,
Mm-hmm.
and that's frightening. And again, she's a young woman, and it's frightening to have to tell your stepfather. Frightening, embarrassing, whatever words you want to use. This is not somebody that, it's just frustrating. And
super frustrating for a multitude of reasons, but also frustrating in the sense that you're telling the family that we don't want to work with you because we think you're covering something up. But
even
it
though
doesn't
his
seem
wife,
like, even if that is their theory, Captain,
Right.
it doesn't appear that they were even investigating or working on building a case around that theory. They just weren't doing anything. And having the excuse that the stepfather is a suspect was just that, an excuse to not do anything, to just sit on our hands and not have to do anything. When we already know that you had this great lead of there was something that went down at that party that might have been a major ordeal, and it happened very shortly before she went missing. That's a freaking lead.
Yeah. Now, I wouldn't blame him so much if the sexual assault charges were against the stepfather. Then you go, okay, well, A to B, we're looking into this guy, but that's not who the allegations were against. It was about this party. And I'm surprised these morons didn't turn to the stepfather's wife, Ebby's mother, and say, collect evidence against him, because you collected evidence on everything else.
All right, I'm looking at my phone, I'm looking at my device, and on both I have the very awesome Stitcher app. It is free. You can go out and get the Stitcher app, and we have all of our old episodes on there for free for you to listen to. Also, make sure you check out our other show called Off the Record. It is available on Stitcher Premium.
Stay tuned until tomorrow. It's going to get pretty heated in the garage. Until then, be good, be kind, don't